Welcome back to Bio News Network. This is a perfect English grammar series we're working on, and we're actually progressing really slowly towards covering 500 to 600 words that we anticipate that will be possibly on your TOEFL, SAT, or any of the standardized exams. We're actually coming up on a small milestone, actually approaching about 300 words that we have discovered here in this series. So, by all means, if you've actually gone through all of the different videos in the series, we're now at about 24. Definitely congratulate yourself, pat yourself on the back if you've gotten this far as expanding your vocabulary. We're going to go a lot more in depth in some of the memory mnemonics so that we can actually firmly implant your memory of these words and their definitions. We're actually going to be focusing on our word cloud storage system as well as our system for the vocabulary recall sheets. One thing we wanted to notice, we wanted to spend a little time on ingraining these 36 words from the last three chapters. We're now on Vol.3 Chapter 4, and these are the first three chapters of Volume 3. So we wanted to touch base. Now, if you recall on the vocabulary recall cheat sheets, these are keywords from the actual sample sentence that we actually use in preparation for each lesson or chapter. So if we take a look, just an example, abdicate, two keywords from that sample sentence used to show the context of how the word is actually used and pronunciation. Abdicate. We saw that the Queen the United Kingdom was eagerly anticipating the time when the Queen would abdicate her throne. Aggrandize had to do with a sample sentence, act as if. Had to do with a lower level manager acting as if she was actually the CEO. So that called into context how the word aggrandize is actually used. So as we go through this recall cheat sheet, we'll touch base on it throughout this lesson, this chapter 4, so that we can firmly ingrain and touch base and recall some of these words that we're actually using. We highly suggest that you use this type of format to actually go back and refresh your memory. In the meantime, here we are with 12 new words: artifact, coalescence. We're looking at Daunt, and we're looking at declaim, forage, glore, all the way through to reprobate. And as we take a look at our word cloud storage system here, we can see that, just to recap, these are 1 through 12 storage bins along the human body that we actually use as a mnemonics reference for the 12 words that we're covering. So if we start with artifact, we see the synonym as a memento, and we see an ancient statue there, a noun meaning object made by humans. Let's see how it's actually used in a sample sentence. The archaeologist took his time to slowly remove the dust from the artifact before moving it. Noun meaning object made by humans. So there we have the first word in our blue group, artifact. Memento is a synonym, and as you can see, just to touch base on these four color groups, the blue group is the HEM group, hair, air, and mouth. The orange group is a stomach, shoulder, stomach, and elbow group, orange group. The red group is AWH, standing for arm, wrist, and hand. And we assign these to storage bins so that you can actually make the correlation between the different body parts, coupled with the color of the cloud that the word is in, and then mapped over to its synonym along with a picture word association, and combined with our vocabulary recall cheat sheets, which takes two keywords from the sample sentence itself. The whole idea is to have a pretty complex and very, very powerful and effective mnemonic system that we actually employ here to help you remember the words. Of course, it doesn't hurt to actually go back to each vocabulary recall sheet for the respective chapter, but by going through this lesson, you can actually see how we're mapping the word definition to the synonym along with a picture to word association, which should help you to remember the word for a pretty long time as you go into your standardized exam. And keep in mind also, we want to make a note here that a lot of these words, as you really take them in and understand how they're used, they can actually serve you really well as far as preparing for your college application essay or even your interviews, because of course there's less emphasis, there's more equally weighting actually for standardized exams with many of the top colleges to actually how you present yourself in your application, and a pretty good judge of that application. More weight is being applied to the college essay interview and also your college essay. So, okay, so here we have coalescence and consolidate as a synonym. We see a fuse box there. We wanted to make sure that you had the association of the fuse to the fuse box. Coalescence means to consolidate or fuse together. Let's see how it's actually used in a sentence. The media shined the light on the Occupy movement as thousands of people coalesced on Wall Street. Verb meaning fuse together, coalescence. And so that's our second word in our blue group. It's mapped to the consolidate synonym fuse together word definition. And our next word in our first group, the blue group, is Daunt, and we can clearly see here that the Daunt is mapped to intimidate, and even further to the picture word association of the word bully in red, and verb meaning discourage. Daunt. Let's see how it's actually used in a sentence here. In many of the Marvel movies, the storyline shows that danger doesn't daunt the superheroes. So basically, the plot line of most of these Marvel movies, the main character isn't daunted by danger doesn't daunt the main hero, the main character. So if we map daunt to intimidate, to bully, to discourage, and also another association would be the mouth storage bin. And that rounds out our blue clouds HEM group, HEM, hair, air, and mouth. That is another association to remember the word itself. If you can picture the word in the cloud and the color, it may help you to remember its synonym, which is the closest mapping to it. So artifact, memento, coalescence, fuse box, and daunt, bully or intimidate. So that would be our blue group. Let's see, declaim. Give us a formal speech, and we see a picture there of someone holding a bullhorn to speak. Let's see how it's actually used in a sentence. Declaim. The president exuded so much passion in the press conference while he declaimed his climate change initiatives. Verb meaning give a formal speech. So I apologize for the typo there. It should be climate change initiatives. And so there we have declaim, speak, give a formal speech. Forage. Forage is in the orange group. Scavenge, to go in search of. Let's see how it's actually used in a sentence here. Forage. It's fun during lunch to watch the squirrels forage in the park for nuts and scraps of food. Verb meaning rummage in search of something. So there we have a forage, and we see picture association of a squirrel in the park or in a forest. Scavenge is a synonym. Glore. So we have glore, which is scowl or stare in an angry way, and this is attached to a picture word association of an owl, and owl, scowl. So if you can remember the picture word association of the owl to glower, then you'll remember that it's scowl, which is stare in a bad way. angry way. So glower, um, glower, stare in an angry way. Sample sentence: the young boy stared at his mother with such an angry scowl as he was denied the toy in the mall. So that would be holding it in context, and that's the orange group rounded out. So let's just quickly do a left hand. We like to cover our left hand. Look just at the synonym alone. Memento has to do with artifact, coalescence, fuse box, fuse together, intimidate, and that was daunt. Speak was declaim, and scavenge was forage, and scowl was glower. And then when we put our hand over the right side, which covers the synonyms and the picture word association, we can quickly look at the word definition: artifact, memento, statue, coalescence, fuse box, coalescence, fuse box, and that would be consolidate together. Daunt and daunt would be discourage, intimidate, or the word bully, picture word association, bully. And then we have declaim. Declaim, make a formal speech. Picture word of the gentleman holding a bullhorn. And forage, the squirrel in the park. Forage, glower, and that was scowl or owl, picture word association. So we can go back and forth as we're doing previous chapters, where you actually cover the right hand side or the left hand side of the word to firmly implant. And it also helps that you actually prepare a vocabulary recall cheat sheet, which actually has 2 keywords, and then you have that word in the center of the rectangle, and you can quickly go over these, and that will actually allow your brain to recall the story of the word, which we always emphasize in our lessons. All right, so incipient, synonym embryonic, and we see the embryo, the image of the embryo in the early state. So let's see how it's actually used in a sentence. Incipient. Sample sentence: the development of the new cryptocurrencies supporting the metaverse was in an incipient stage. Let's make sure that we're pronouncing that word incipient correctly. The development of the new cryptocurrency was development of the new cryptocurrency supporting the metaverse was in the incipient stage. Incipient, yep, adjective, meaning in the early stage. So the next one in our red group would be outstrip. And for whatever reason, some people say that they tend to remember seeing the word in the red cloud versus any of the other colors. It could be that red is such a proactive and active color that the brain tends to remember the word in the red cloud versus any of the other colors, but that remains to be seen whether it's actually factual or not, but only from feedback. Outstrip, outpace, surpass, and we see the pictures of NASCAR race car drivers there. Let's see how it's actually used in a sentence. Outstrip. With just 2 laps to go, Pierre outstripped all of his fellow race car drivers, gained the lead, and won the trophy. Verb meaning surpass. So there we have outstrip, outpace, surpass, incipient, embryonic, in the early state, and then now we have preamble. Preamble is also known as preface or introductory statement. Let's see how it's actually used in a sentence here. The Prime Minister prefaced his resignation speech with an official preamble. Noun meaning introductory statement. Preamble. So we can make the association of the early part, the first part of the book, preface, introductory statement, preamble, and that will be rounding out our blue, orange, and red group. And then just make sure that you can do a test of covering up the left side as we normally do, and or covering up the right side, depending, so that you can firmly implant. And by all means, make your vocabulary recall cheat sheet. similar to this one that we did for chapters 1, 2, and 3 for volume 3. So our next word is predilection. And let's make sure that we're pronouncing that correctly. And that is going to be predilection. Yes, predilection. Fondness or preference. Let's see how it's actually used in a sentence here. Teenagers have a clear predilection for Instagram over other social media apps. So this suggests a preference, noun, meaning. And we can clearly see that a thumbs up, which is similar to the like that you see on a lot of the social media apps. So that would be a good way to make a picture word association between fondness and predilection, so that you remember the word. The next word is proxy, proxy agent, and we see here a person serving as an agent. Let's see how it's actually used in a sentence. Proxy. The general decided to submit his vote by proxy, noun meaning person authorized to act on behalf of another. So proxy, sort of like working as an agent. So the next word will be reprobate, and this is a degenerate or shameless. Can be used as a noun or can be used as a noun or an adjective actually. Sample sentence: the community was astonished by the callous and heinous crimes committed by the reprobate. So there we have our 12 words that we're focusing on. And if we can quickly go over just looking at the word definitions itself: artifact, object made by, coalescence, fused together, daunt, bully or discourage, declaim, speech, forage, squirrel, glor, scowl, owl, incipient, and that would be embryonic, early stage, outstrip, NASCAR, preamble, preface, introductory statement, predilection, that was a preference with a thumbs up, proxy, agent, and then reprobate, shameless. So there we have 12 words that you can use picture to word associations and firmly implant them in your memory as you go forward. And that covers the 12 words we're working on. Let's just take a quick snap look. We want to reinforce the usage of the vocabulary recall cheat sheets. And here we have, let's go over some of the words here. Confound. If you recall from the sample sentence, it had to do with the airport manager being confounded or confused by the new design of the drainage system where water collected under the runway. And just by looking at two of the keywords, you remember the sentence. So it's very, very important for you to go back and recall how the word is actually used in a sentence, and that will help you to firmly implant context as well as mapping to its synonym, and hopefully to picture word association for even more powerful memory mnemonics. Felicious, graduation, that means happy or ceremonious. If you remember officer and a gentleman, sample sentence had to do with the main character stating he didn't really have anywhere else to go, so he was a maverick as far as taking to military service. Onerous has to do with a very, very difficult and the tribulation of police officers having to disclose the death at 2 a.m. at a family's house. Paucity had to do with the small quantity of toys. Let's see. Pandemic had to do with poverty, penury. Coalescence had to do with the silence of the UN Council with respect to addressing the serious ramifications of climate change. And strut had to do with the sample sentence referencing model planes where the struts had to be strong enough, which is holding the two sections of the wing together for to ensure the strength of the model plane. If we look at chapter 2, the words that we were working on were augment through stratagem, and some of the words do need to go back to the keywords. Let's see real quickly. Effigy. Effigy had to do with the burning of the tires. It was kind of a symbol of someone, effigy, and it had to do with dummies. If you recall the sample sentence, it had to do with a protest. So they were actually symbols or representations. Let's see. Ingrate had to do with ungrateful children who don't say thank you for their parents preparing breakfast for them. Jocular, jocular, jocular had to do with the life of the party. If you recall the sample sentence, it had to do with Marty and Jen. So then, once you remember Marty and Jen, you'll recall how the word jocular was actually used. Pervasive, that had to do with the criminal element of Miami and residents actually relocating north to West Palm Beach. So these keywords are very, very important for you to trigger the memory of the sample sentence. And phlegmatic. Um, when you think about it, if you were to break it up into sort of a root or suffix, prefix of the word, it would simply mean slow moving or non responsive. But in this case, it basically means, if you recall the sample sentence, it has to do with non emotional, why explains why John was promoted 3 times as a result of his disposition when it came to dealing with stress and not showing too much emotion. Propitiate had to do with pacification, trying to break up a fight in a fight on the flight. So if you remember the sample sentence of the flight attendant, actually trying to pacify passengers before a fight escalated. And then we have stratagem. Stratagem is a very unique word, but if you look at the cues, you recall from the sample sentence that had to do with the fact that the candidacy was actually canceled as a result of inappropriate tweets. So that will actually trigger the memory of the word stratagem. And then we have for chapter 3, aberrant all the way through to synoptic. And aberrant, remember the child in the mall acting up. Aberrant, that should trigger memory of how the word and what it means, aberrant. Average had to do with canceling the campaign as a result of the wife's stroke. Conversant, speaks well of. So we used a reference of a freshman in college who was actually able to be conversant about vibrational mechanics, which was a senior level class, so that it was very impressive. And then convoke had to do with the queen calling a meeting. Curmudgeon had to do with complaints received by the manager as a result of a manager who was very difficult. Duplicity, double dealing, if you recall. And now we see that duplicity has also triggered the memory of the picture word association of the two faces from the actor meme, or the drama the theater picture. Lassitude had to do with fatigue. When we see those two cities together, we see that someone's making a transition from San Diego to Dallas, and that triggers the memory of the sample sentence where there was fatigue for the driver. Opaque, that signals the use of polarized lenses for the fisherman to be able to see below the opaque layer of the water, the top layer of the water. Precarious had to do with a unique situation, but with respect to the sample sentence, had to do with the main character increasing 401k distributions as a result of precarious position with respect to his employment, with a possible impending layoff. And provincial had to do with blessing or fortune. We see the two keywords, job and Ganesh, which is Hindu deity, with respect to breaking through obstacles. and that triggers a memory of how the word was actually used. Providual had to do with fortune. Repose had to do with tranquility of the wake, and in if you recall that sample sentence. And then we have synoptic. Synoptic had to do with putting together notes as a result of, or summary as a result of group interviews. So we just wanted to make sure that we highlighted the use of the words with respect to the various memory mnemonic systems that we use as we not only do we look at also how the context of the word was used, but we also take a look at how the word is actually used in a sentence. We actually see how the synonym, if the synonym is very close to the word itself, and also we take a look at the picture word association. Hopefully, the combination of all of these different um, mnemonics will actually help you to increase your memory. We use a lot of different memory tricks here as far as our word cloud storage, and assigning it to different storage bins for trying to make an association. One association you can clearly see there is forage to the stomach storage bin, as a squirrel forages through the park looking for scraps of food and nuts. So these are different methodologies that we use, or mnemonics, to actually help you to increase your memory of the words that we cover. So it's really a good way for you to start the day with learning 12 new vocabulary words to help you expand your vocabulary universe. Of course, our primary goal is to help you prepare for TOEFL SAT, but based on all the feedback that we've gotten so far, these chapters are also increasing not only modern business English comprehension, but also keep in mind the very pivotal and all important college essay for your application, as well as the interview, and also the formatting for being able to comprehend interviewing and listening skills and writing skills for TOEFL SAT. So as we get further and further into this series, we're going to be approaching a milestone of 300 words that we've actually covered, which is hard to believe that we've actually covered 300 words in this series so far on our path to 500 or even more. We're just going to keep going and keep expanding your vocabulary universe with more reading comprehension exercises, synonym matching exercises, and of course exploring our word cloud storage system, so that you can ingrain more and more of these words into your memory. That will allow you to increase your level of communication across the board, and not only prepare for standardized exams, but prepare for life in general, as well as it's becoming more and more important for preparation for college applications, especially for the essay that you prepare, as well as once again the interviews. So thank you for tuning in to Volume 3, Chapter 4 that we're working on now. We're going to be preparing Chapter 5 for you very shortly, which will mark 300 words that we've actually covered. So make sure you smash that notification bell for the live stream as soon as we go live, and so we can help you expand your vocabulary universe and fine-tune your grammar skills. So as always, thank you for tuning in to our Perfect English Grammar series for Volume 3, Chapter 4. And please smash that like button and share these lessons with friends, especially those who are preparing for standardized exams, or who need to have, especially those who need to have a high level of communication on the job with respect to preparing presentations or memos, or writing very complicated training manuals, or preparation of just thorough emails. So thank you for tuning in once again. We appreciate all of our subscribers, and have a great day.